Tonight, we're getting a first-hand account of what it was like to take cover when Iranian suicide drones and missiles were launched into Israel this past weekend.
We didn't know what to expect. I wasn't hysterical, but it is really scary. You know that the missiles are doing their way to your country or to you don't know where, and you just sit there and wait for them to fall on your head.
That was Orit Ben-Harash. She spoke exclusively to News4JAX reporter Eric Avignon about what she and her family went through during the attack by Iran.
Hours before this display of Israeli surface-to-air missiles and fighter jets shooting down Iranian drones and ballistic missiles, Orit Ben-Harash says she and her family were paying close attention to television reports about an oncoming attack.
We are closely monitoring Iranian killer drones that are en route.
And now you just have to wait and be prepared, and you don't really know what will be happen. And that was scary.
Then, hours after the television warning, sirens were activated as Iranian drones and missiles entered Israeli airspace, thus triggering the Israeli Iron Dome missile defense system.
Could you hear from your home what was happening in the air?
Yeah, we were sitting, in front of the television and trying to be updated. And all of a sudden, there was a very, very loud booming outside.
She says she and her family hid under a flight of stairs, which was the safest place in their home in the event their roof collapsed from a missile or suicide drone attack.
How scary is that, though, when you hear that first boom and then you hear the sirens going off?
It's really scary, we have like a very small space in where we squeeze together, and we have a shelter which you have to run. Because they say that once the siren went on, you have like a minute and a half that you should go into a shelter.
As Orit and her family were taking cover, her cousin, Chet Englander, who is the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Sarasota and Manatee County, Florida, was hoping his relatives and friends in Israel would be okay.
We were sitting worried and trying to understand, is this real? Are they going to land on civilian areas? Are they going? So my wife actually sent a message to Orit and to one of her sons and some of our friends and said, we heard the terrible news. We're praying for you.
99% of the Iranian attack drones and missiles were shot out of the sky. The air attack came 6 months after Hamas terrorists invaded Israel, killing more than 1,000 Israelis, kidnapping more than 200, and holding them as hostages. Hamas is considered a proxy or agent for Iran. I asked if the Israeli government should retaliate against Iran or focus more on getting their hostages back.
I think we must deal with both things at the same time.
President Biden says the U.S. will help Israel defend itself, but will not take part in any retaliatory attack against Iran.
No, it's worth pointing out there was a lot more to that interview, which is why we posted the entire unedited version of that interview on our website, news4jax.com. Now, coming up at 11, we're going to have more on the conflict between Israel and Iran from an Iranian woman who moved here to the U.S. During the 1979 Iranian Revolution, a revolution that some can argue and say this started everything.
Yeah, 40 years ago plus that it started there. When you told us about this story today that you were pursuing, what stuck out to me was what Orit, what she experienced, I don't think any of us can relate to. Those lights in the sky are coming to try and destroy you.
It's funny you should say that because, here in Jacksonville, every so many nights we see fireworks in the sky. We're used to seeing military aircraft go over in the sky. We are not used to seeing, can you imagine how foreign that would be to see a missile strike over U.S. airspace?
And not only that, we always get updates about the war and the countries that are fighting, and you have put a face on that. So we can actually hear from someone who was there, which just makes it all that more real.
Right.
You know, it was a great interview.
Yeah, I was so thankful when they granted me that interview because I wanted to know what it was like to be in that situation because I don't think any of us have ever been in a situation like that before.
Thank you, Eric.